Although it may be hard to believe, back in the days of early Generation 1, Eevee and the Eeveelutions weren't nearly as popular as they are now. One of the reasons for this is the fact that Eevee was quite difficult to find in Red and Blue. The only place you could find it was in a part of the Celadon Mansion which was only accessible through a hidden entrance at the back, which not a lot of people found. Besides that, Eevee's original 3 evolutions were able to be registered into your Pokédex using Bill's computer north of Cerulean City. But that only happened if you re-entered his house after completing what was necessary for the story, so again, it's something which not a lot of people would think to do. Gradually, however, things began to change. Eevee and its original evolutions were featured as a focal point of one of the anime episodes. Blue ended up getting an Eevee as his starter Pokemon in Pokemon Yellow, and of course other Eeveelutions were eventually introduced in Generation 2. At this point, the Eevee line's popularity began to explode, and it's gotten to the point where we now have 8 total Eeveelutions, and Eevee was of course featured as the mascot of what is considered by Game Freak to be a new main series Pokemon game. With a new Eeveelution being a possibility for the upcoming Generation 8 games, today I thought I'd reflect upon my favorite Eeveelutions of all time, and rank all 8 of them from my least favorite to my favorite. Now I should point out that I love Eevee's entire evolutionary line. Just because a certain Eeveelution is near the back of my top 8 doesn't mean that I hate it, it just means I don't think it's as cool as the other Eeveelutions. These are of course just my opinions, so make sure to comment your own favorite Eeveelutions in the comments down below. But anyway, without any further ado, let's jump into my favorite Eeveelutions of all time. Starting this countdown off at number 8 is Jolteon. Jolteon is a Pokemon that has always felt a little out of place to me because typically non-legendary trios tend to be fire, water, and grass, but instead we got fire, water, and electric, which doesn't complete the super effective triangle. I will admit that Jolteon is actually one of the best Eeveelutions in terms of competitive battling since it's so quick, has a high special attack, and has great stab moves including Volt Switch, which is really useful. I think what I dislike about it most though is its design. It just looks so frail and plain relative to other Eeveelutions. If you look at other sort of canine or cat-like electric type Pokemon, their designs are really slick and cool looking. But Jolteon doesn't really compare in my opinion. I do have to give a quick shout out to its shiny form though. The lime green with the blue eyes is actually really cool. Overall, I like Jolteon as a Pokemon, but as an Eeveelution, I personally think it's my least favorite. At number 7, we have the Fire-type Eeveelution, Clarion. Clarion is definitely an Eeveelution that is heavily bashed by the Pokemon community since it's quite terrible and competitive. They gave it so much special defense and special attack for some reason, but so little speed. Aside from the fact that its moveset and abilities are pretty good, and I do think it's kind of underrated, I think people kind of exaggerate how bad it is. Besides its underrated status, I also think Clarion's design is pretty cool. Simple, but not too simple, and it really suits its fire type. Relative to most of the other Eeveelutions though, it's kind of bland, so it's definitely not my favorite. One thing I do have to give credit to both Jolteon and Clarion for though is their amazing art in the trading card game set that really helped me to appreciate their designs a bit more and made me like them much more as Pokemon in the early days of the franchise. The trading card game was a huge part of my childhood and was actually a way that I connected with a lot of my friends, and I remember using these 2 cards while playing with them. So, naturally, when Pokemon cards were banned at school in Canada, my social standing collapsed. Yeah, I'm serious. This is the actual article. Thanks Jolteon and Clarion for always being there for me. Except when I needed you most, of course. Nah, I kid. You guys are alright. At number 6 is a Pokemon that, if you had asked me my opinion on it 3 years ago, I would have said it's my least favorite, but it has grown on me since then. Sylveon. Honestly, at first, its introduction in Gen 6 was a bit of a disappointment to me. We all knew that new Eeveelutions were coming since new ones tend to come every 2 generations, but when this one arrived, it ended up being my least favorite type, Fairy. And instead of the duo Eeveelutions that we usually get, we just got one. Eventually, however, I realized that for a Fairy type, Sylveon is actually one of my favorite Fairy Pokemon, and it really redeems the type overall. Despite its design being really cute and pretty, Sylveon is an absolute beast in battle and is arguably the best Eeveelution in competitive, with great base stats and the amazing Pixelate ability. You're not bad, Sylveon. You're not bad. Rounding out the top 5 is an Eeveelution that was first introduced in Generation 4, Glaceon. Now, I'll be honest, there's not much of a case to be made for Glaceon in terms of competitive battling, it's kind of bad. But there are a few other factors that make me really like it as an Eeveelution. Glaceon is one of those Pokemon that has a simple and sleek design without being over-designed. It's super pretty, and I love how its tail, ear, and hair has that kind of ice shard look to them. The color scheme is also beautiful. One really amazing thing I love about Glaceon is the way that it evolves, especially in Gen 4. You have to bring the Eevee out into the snow and level it up near the ice rock. If someone had a Glaceon back in Gen 4, you had a sense that they knew what they were doing. Glaceon being a symbol of a knowledgeable trainer suits it perfectly, but I definitely would have liked to have seen it be better in battle. Next up, we have the Psychic-type Eeveelution, Espeon, which was first introduced in Gen 2. Espeon's a pretty decent Pokemon in competitive, and its design is really sleek and represents the Psychic typing well. Mysterious, and you kind of know that there's more than meets the eye with this Pokemon. However, I like Espeon for a bit more of a sentimental reason. Espeon being introduced in Generation 2 sort of symbolizes the continuation of the Pokemon franchise. There were of course a few other evolutions from Generation 1 Pokemon in Gen 2, but none of us really knew or expected that new Eeveelutions would happen, just like Gold and Silver being released in the first place. Just like Espeon evolves in the daytime, Espeon to me symbolizes the dawn of a new day for Pokemon and the continuation of a franchise that has changed my life for the better. Next up, we have the Water-type Eeveelution, Vaporeon. To me, Vaporeon really stands out from the other original Eeveelutions. The others both look like dogs that have a slight electric or fire theme to their fur, but Vaporeon kind of transforms entirely into a new creature that is made for water with its mermaid-like body, its fins, and its elegant tail. Vaporeon is also great in battle with solid all-around base stats and a great ability and move pool. As soon as I saw this thing in action for the first time in the anime, I knew it would always be one of my favorite water types, and that has held true to this day. And taking the silver medal is none other than the Gen 2 Dark-type Eeveelution, Umbreon. Umbreon's design is just amazing, I think we can all acknowledge that. It's simple, but it stands out a lot, and it represents the Dark typing perfectly, with its rings kind of reminding me of the Moonlight. It's also a decent Pokemon in competitive, although admittedly it has become somewhat of a stall Pokemon in recent generations, but hey, it still does well. Umbreon is a really nostalgic Pokemon, not only because of how much I enjoyed using it in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, but also because of how many iconic trainers use it in the franchise. From Gary in the anime, to the Kimono Girl of Ecruteak City, to Karen of the Elite Four. Karen's philosophy of using the Pokemon that you love, not just the ones that are good competitively, really mirrors my own philosophy, which is why I love to use the underrated Pokemon and even make a lot of videos about them too. If Karen loves Umbreon, hey, I love Umbreon too. And at number 1, my favorite Eeveelution of all time is Leafeon. Now, I know, it's a weird choice, but Grass is one of my favorite types, and as I said in the beginning of this video, I think that Grass would have ideally been better as a third Eeveelution type over the Electric type. So seeing this thing finally be released was absolutely amazing for me. Just like Glaceon, I really like the way Leafeon evolves in Gen 4 by leveling up Eevee near the beautiful Moss Stone. It's also got a wickedly cool design, which makes you think that it's actually part plant. And it has that kind of rustic look to it, as if it's an ancient plant deity or something, I don't know. Above all though, Leafeon represents to me what I was talking about earlier with underrated Pokemon. A lot of people don't know that its base stats are actually quite good, with great speed, which can be further improved using its chlorophyll ability, and a massive attack and defense, as well as an awesome move pool with moves like Swords Dance and Leaf Blade. To me, Leafeon represents the ideal of what an Eeveelution should be. Creative, unique, and really interesting, just like Eevee's evolutionary line itself. And there we are everyone, all of the Eeveelutions ranked from the worst to the best in terms of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to annihilate that thumbs up button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss future uploads. Don't forget to comment down below your favorite Eeveelutions, I'm really curious to know what yours are. That's all for this video, and I will see you next week for some more Pokemon content.